The Amazon isn't like any other place on Earth, a jungle so dense, so alive, that the very air feels charged with mystery. It's home to billions of organisms, plants, animals, and people, but also a silent, looming threat. This forest, covering almost 5.5 million square kilometers, isn't just a natural wonder, it's the pulse of our planet. Yet, every day, we take it for granted. The Amazon sustains us in ways we never imagined. But what would happen if it were to disappear? Imagine for a moment the Earth without the Amazon rainforest. No more cooling rains, no more stabilizing weather systems, no more massive biodiversity that fuels our advancements. This forest doesn't just influence South America, it has global reach. But it's more than just a resource, it's home to ancient tribes whose existence is tied to every tree and river. Their lives are intertwined with this land in ways that we can barely begin to understand. As fires rage across this precious expanse, species are pushed to the brink of extinction, and entire ecosystems collapse. We're left with one undeniable truth: the fate of the Amazon could determine the fate of humanity itself. When we talk about the Amazon, we often hear about its role as the lungs of the earth. But this characterization only scratches the surface of what this forest does for the planet. It's not just about oxygen, it's about global weather patterns, the water cycle, and even the agricultural systems that support billions of people. In reality, the Amazon serves as a massive water pump, constantly releasing moisture into the air, which in turn helps create rainfall patterns in regions far beyond its borders. The moisture released by the Amazon doesn't just stay local. It travels across continents, feeding rainfall in places like the US Midwest and the Sahel region in Africa. It even has a direct impact on the jet stream, one of the most important air currents that shape our weather. Every raindrop from this rainforest is a tiny piece of a larger, global puzzle. And when that moisture is cut off due to deforestation or burning, the repercussions can be felt around the world. Later on, we'll look at how something as simple as a tree's ability to transpire moisture could be the key to keeping entire cities from becoming uninhabitable. But what about the carbon that this forest absorbs? How does that play into climate change? The Amazon absorbs more carbon than any other forest in the world, holding the potential to either trap the carbon and help reverse global warming or, if destroyed, release it back into the atmosphere, accelerating climate catastrophe. Take the city of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Every year, they rely on the rains of the Amazon to replenish their freshwater reserves. Without it, this bustling metropolis would face severe droughts, devastating crops, and a major water crisis. Imagine your city without water, everything would grind to a halt. This is the stark reality that we could face. And yet, the world continues to tear down this natural wonder, one tree at a time. The question is, can we change course before it's too late? The Amazon is not only the largest rainforest in the world, it's also one of the most biologically diverse places on the planet. Within these dense, green walls lives an astonishing array of creatures, many of which have never been seen by human eyes. But what makes the Amazon's biodiversity so extraordinary isn't just its sheer size, it's the way life here thrives in ways we can't replicate. This forest is a complex, living web, where every species, no matter how small, plays a crucial role in maintaining balance. Over 400 billion trees call the Amazon home, each one hosting countless insects, birds, mammals, and reptiles. But hidden among this overwhelming number are species we've only recently discovered. Take, for instance, the Amazon pink river dolphin, an enigmatic creature with its playful, intelligent nature, or the poison dart frog, with its vibrant colors warning predators of its toxicity. These creatures aren't just random, they represent a delicate balance that sustains the forest. But perhaps the most astonishing fact of all is how little we truly know. Despite decades of research, scientists estimate that nearly half of all species in the Amazon are yet to be discovered. What if the cure for cancer is hidden here, locked within a species we've never cataloged? What if the solution to global food shortages is buried under the thick green canopy of this ancient forest? It's not a distant possibility. These answers may be lost to us forever if we continue to ignore the destruction happening right now. In 2017, a team of researchers stumbled upon a previously unknown species of monkey, the Muir's monkey, a creature so elusive, it had escaped the eyes of scientists for centuries. Can you imagine the thrill of being the first to lay eyes on a creature that's been hidden for so long? Yet, for every new species discovered, how many others are vanishing without us even knowing? With every acre that burns or is cleared, we lose these hidden gems forever. How many species are we destined to never see, never understand, because we failed to act in time? Time is running out. Some studies show that every year, the Amazon loses species at an alarming rate. In fact, it's estimated that by the year 2050, nearly 1/3 of the Amazon species could face extinction due to habitat loss. Think about that 1/3 of a forest that we rely on for oxygen, weather regulation, and medical discoveries, gone, and we may never even know what we lost. Yet, as much as we cherish the Amazon for its beauty and importance, it is under siege. Fires ravage this land every year, but they're not natural disasters. No, they are the result of deliberate actions, deforestation driven by agriculture, mining, and logging. Yet, as much as we cherish the Amazon for its beauty and importance, it is under siege. Fires ravage this land every year, but they're not natural disasters. No, they are the result of deliberate actions, deforestation driven by agriculture, mining, and logging. And the worst part, the fires aren't just random, they're planned. Set intentionally to clear land for cattle ranching, palm oil plantations, and illegal logging. And the worst part, we often don't even know who's behind it. Each fire is a punch to the face of biodiversity. But behind these flames lies a much darker story: the destruction of entire communities, both human and animal. Indigenous tribes who have lived on this land for millennia are forced off their ancestral homes. Their sacred forests are torn down, their rivers poisoned, and their cultures erased. For them, the forest is life. It's a provider of food, medicine, and shelter. The Amazon isn't just a place, it's a living entity, a teacher, and a guide. So, when the forest is attacked, these communities aren't just losing their homes, they're losing their identity. Take the story of the Yanomami tribe, one of the largest indigenous tribes in the Amazon. For centuries, they have lived in harmony with the forest, relying on its resources for survival. But in recent years, illegal miners have infiltrated their territory, destroying their land and leaving behind toxic mercury. The Yanomami people have been left to fight for their survival. For them, the destruction of the Amazon isn't just a crisis, it's an existential threat. Think about it. How would you feel if your entire way of life was ripped away from you by forces you can't control? What would you do if your home, your identity, was at risk of being wiped out in a matter of months or years? While the flames of the Amazon burn, the chainsaws keep cutting. And it's not just a few trees here and there. The rate of deforestation has skyrocketed, with over 10,000 square kilometers of forest lost each year. That's the size of a small country, gone in just 12 months. It's a tragedy of unimaginable proportions, and we're only starting to feel the consequences. Every tree felled, every hectare of land cleared for farming or logging, is one step closer to an irreversible tipping point. Scientists warn that if we reach a certain threshold of deforestation, around 25% of the forest, we risk losing the entire ecosystem. The Amazon could reach a point of no return, where it turns from a carbon sink into a carbon emitter, and that's a nightmare scenario for the planet. But what if the destruction of the Amazon isn't just about greed and profit? What if it's also about something more sinister, something that could affect us all in ways we can't yet comprehend? Stay with me, because I'm about to reveal something that might change everything you thought you knew about the Amazon. While the Amazon is often celebrated for its extraordinary wildlife, it is also home to some of the world's oldest civilizations. Indigenous tribes have lived in this forest for thousands of years, their existence intricately tied to the land. They've survived not only through their understanding of the forest cycles, but by cultivating sustainable practices that have allowed them to live in harmony with this vast, ever-changing environment. To them, the Amazon is far more than just a forest. It's a source of identity, culture, and spiritual wisdom. Take the Kayapo tribe, for example. They are renowned for their deep connection to the forest. Their land spans over 200,000 square kilometers of the Amazon, and they have developed sophisticated techniques to manage their environment without harming it. They understand the subtle balance of the ecosystem, and their practices have kept the forest alive for generations. The Kayapo use controlled burns, not to destroy, but to maintain the land's fertility. This ancient practice, passed down through the ages, is far more effective than the rampant fires set by illegal loggers or agricultural expansion. And yet, These practices are now under threat. As the Amazon burns and is cleared, so too is the knowledge of these tribes at risk of being lost. The fight to protect the Amazon is not just about saving trees, it's about protecting a way of life. Indigenous leaders are fighting back, not with weapons, but with their voices. Take Raoni Metuktire, a Kayapo chief who has spent decades rallying the world to save the Amazon. His efforts have brought international attention to the plight of the forest. Yet, despite his tireless work, the battle continues to be uphill, as powerful corporate interests push for even more land exploitation. Raoni's message is simple yet profound: the forest is our mother. And to these tribes, every tree felled, every river poisoned, is a direct assault on their very existence. Imagine being told that your entire way of life could be erased in a few short decades. What would you do? How would you fight to preserve the world you've known all your life? The pressure on these tribes is immense. In many areas, illegal mining operations are poisoning rivers with mercury, while cattle ranchers and farmers clear the forest to make way for crops and livestock. Entire ecosystems are destroyed in a matter of months. Yet, despite all this, the tribes of the Amazon are resilient. They have formed alliances with environmental organizations and governments to push back against deforestation and illegal land grabs. But the question remains, will it be enough? In 2019, the Brazilian government began to weaken protections for the Amazon. This led to increased deforestation and more threats to indigenous communities. The situation became dire when members of the indigenous tribe, the Munduruku, took matters into their own hands. After discovering illegal logging taking place on their land, they formed patrols to remove the invaders, risking their lives in the process. Their fight wasn't just for their survival, it was for the survival of the forest itself. They were putting everything on the line, not just for themselves, but for future generations. And that's the power of the indigenous tribes in the Amazon. Despite facing overwhelming odds, they are the guardians of the forest, holding the key to saving the entire ecosystem. Despite the immense challenges, there are still glimmers of hope. Around the world, people are rising to the challenge, working tirelessly to save the Amazon and its invaluable ecosystems. The fight isn't over yet, and while the forest may be under siege, it has the capacity to heal itself, but only if we act in time. One of the most powerful weapons we have in this battle is reforestation. In recent years, efforts to restore deforested land in the Amazon have started to show promise. Organizations like the Amazon Conservation Association are working with local communities to plant native species and restore biodiversity. But this work isn't easy. Every tree planted requires months of planning, research, and careful execution. In some areas, trees are being reintroduced to regions where entire ecosystems have been destroyed. Scientists have discovered that the Amazon has a remarkable ability to regenerate if given the chance. When deforested areas are left untouched, nature begins to heal itself. Over time, the soil regains its nutrients, and the ecosystem starts to rebuild. In some regions, reforestation has helped bring back species that hadn't been seen in decades. But even more impressive is the fact that restoration efforts are not just about planting trees, they're about reviving entire ecological systems, from the smallest insect to the largest mammal. In Brazil, a nationwide initiative called the Green Wall is working to restore degraded land. This ambitious project aims to create a continuous stretch of protected rainforest that spans several states. By planting millions of trees and creating biodiversity corridors, this project not only aims to restore the land but also protect indigenous communities from further land grabs. These efforts are making a tangible difference, but they need our support. The Green Wall is just one example of how collective action can have a powerful impact, and yet, we cannot rest on our laurels. The battle for the Amazon is ongoing, and every moment counts. One of the most critical changes that must happen is corporate accountability. Corporations that profit from Amazon deforestation must be held responsible for the environmental destruction they cause. Companies involved in the production of palm oil, soy, and beef must adopt sustainable practices and work within a framework that respects both the environment and indigenous rights. Without this shift, we risk continuing down a path that leads to irreversible damage. As we stand at the crossroads of the Amazon's future, the question remains, can we save it? The forest has seen catastrophic damage, but it has also shown resilience. The Amazon is a living organism that responds to both destruction and care. It has been burned, felled, and exploited for centuries, but it still stands. For now. But that doesn't mean the forest is invincible. Science tells us that the Amazon is rapidly approaching a tipping point and irreversible change where the forest could no longer sustain itself. This tipping point could occur within the next few decades, and once we pass it, the damage will be beyond repair. When we talk about tipping points, we're referring to a situation where the balance shifts so far that even if deforestation stops, the Amazon could still collapse. This is due to something called a positive feedback loop. As more trees are destroyed, the forest's ability to absorb carbon diminishes, the climate becomes drier, and fires become more frequent. Once we hit this point, there may be no turning back. Leading climate scientists have raised the alarm. The Amazon is approaching what's known as a savanna-like state where the lush rainforest is replaced by a dry, degraded landscape. This would not only disrupt the lives of millions of species but also lead to the release of billions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere, accelerating global warming. We're talking about a disaster on a global scale, but how close are we? In 2019, the Amazon witnessed the worst wildfire season on record, with more than 80,000 fires ravaging vast areas. The fire season was exacerbated by illegal logging and deforestation. These fires didn't just burn trees, they released carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, increasing the planet's temperature. The damage caused by these fires could take decades, if not centuries, to recover from. The question we must ask ourselves is, can we reverse the damage? Can we halt the Amazon's march toward its tipping point? Or will we wait until it's too late, watching helplessly as this vital part of our planet collapses? We know the situation is dire, but the real question is, what can we do? The good news is that there is hope. The power to make a difference is not just in the hands of world leaders or corporations, it's in our hands too. Each one of us has the ability to contribute to the solution. In this battle for the Amazon, every action counts. First and foremost, we must change the way we consume. The products we buy every day are directly tied to the deforestation of the Amazon. From beef to palm oil, soy, and paper, these industries are among the biggest contributors to forest loss. But there is a solution, and it starts with us. When you choose sustainably sourced goods, you send a message to the marketplace. You send a message that you refuse to support companies that harm the environment. Look for certifications like Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade, or Certified Organic. These labels represent a commitment to sustainability and ethical sourcing. As consumers, we have the power to shift the demand away from industries that exploit the Amazon. Activism plays a crucial role in this fight. From the streets of Rio de Janeiro to the heart of New York City, environmentalists are raising their voices in protest. Through global movements like Fridays for Future, led by Greta Thunberg, people around the world are demanding urgent action on climate change and environmental protection. Activism isn't just about marching in the streets, it's about influencing policy, changing corporate behavior, and holding governments accountable. When we speak out, we show the world that the Amazon isn't just an isolated forest in South America. It's a global treasure, one that affects all of us. And we will not stand idly by as it burns. Another critical piece of the solution lies in supporting the indigenous communities who have lived in harmony with the Amazon for millennia. These communities are the true guardians of the forest, and their knowledge is invaluable. Supporting their efforts means standing up for their rights to land, culture, and sovereignty. It means advocating for policies that protect their territories from illegal logging, mining, and agricultural expansion. Organizations like Survival International and the Amazon Watch are working directly with indigenous tribes to protect their lands and provide resources to help them resist deforestation. By supporting these initiatives, we can ensure that the voices of the people who know the Amazon best are heard and acted upon. Perhaps the most challenging but necessary action is demanding corporate accountability. Companies must adopt transparent, sustainable practices, particularly those in the palm oil, soy, and beef industries, which are among the largest contributors to Amazon deforestation. We need to hold them accountable not just with words, but through actions. Public pressure works. Just look at the success of campaigns like the one that forced major brands to commit to deforestation-free supply chains. When consumers and activists band together, we send a clear message to corporations. We will not support industries that harm the environment. We will not stand by as our planet's future is sold for profit. When we think of the Amazon, we often think of it as a distant place, a vast jungle located thousands of miles away from most of us. But the reality is that the Amazon is a global treasure. It is a critical part of the Earth's lifeblood, and what happens there affects all of us. The Amazon is not just a forest, it is a planetary system that regulates the climate, provides clean air and water, and sustains biodiversity. In short, the fate of the Amazon is tied to the fate of the planet. The Amazon is often referred to as the lungs of the Earth, and for good reason. The trees of the Amazon absorb carbon dioxide, the primary greenhouse gas responsible for global warming, and release oxygen into the atmosphere. If the Amazon continues to shrink, the world will lose one of its most important carbon sinks. This means more carbon in the atmosphere, leading to more intense climate change, more extreme weather patterns, and greater global instability. In addition to its role in regulating the climate, the Amazon plays a vital part in the water cycle. The forest generates its own rainfall and helps regulate the flow of water throughout South America. If the Amazon were to collapse, it would lead to massive disruptions in weather patterns not just in Brazil, but across the entire continent and beyond. This could result in widespread droughts, the drying up of rivers, and the destruction of crops that millions of people rely on for their livelihoods. Deforestation in the Amazon also has ripple effects on global food security. The land that is cleared for agriculture and cattle ranching contributes to a system that links the forest with global supply chains. The demand for soy, palm oil, beef, and timber fuels the destruction of the Amazon, and these products end up on supermarket shelves in countries around the world. When the forest disappears, so does the stability of our food systems, the water that nourishes our crops, and the very air we breathe. The scale of the Amazon's destruction is not just a regional issue, it's a global crisis. This is no longer just about South America. This is about all of us. And the longer we wait to take action, the greater the cost will be both for the environment and for future generations. Saving the Amazon requires global cooperation. The world's governments must work together to enact policies that protect the rainforest while supporting the people who rely on it. International treaties, such as the Paris Agreement, must include stronger protections for forests like the Amazon. And global leaders must push for zero deforestation commitments from corporations. Just as we are interconnected in our environmental challenges, we are also interconnected in our solutions. Whether it's investing in sustainable development or increasing support for environmental NGOs, the world must unite to protect this irreplaceable resource. The Amazon belongs to everyone, and it is up to all of us to protect it. The Amazon is at a crossroads, and so are we. The next decade will determine whether this vital rainforest survives or whether we witness its irreversible destruction. The choices we make today will affect the generations to come. This is the moment. The tipping point is near, and we must act with urgency. But it's not too late. The forest can still heal. The future is not set in stone. It's in our hands, your hands. Each decision, no matter how small, can have a lasting impact. It's about the choices we make when we shop, the conversations we have with others, and the actions we take as individuals and communities. Every tree you plant, every sustainable product you buy, every company you hold accountable, it all adds up. Together, we can restore the Amazon, protect its biodiversity, and fight climate change. The Amazon is the lungs of the earth, but it's also a symbol of resilience, hope, and survival. Let it be a symbol of our commitment to preserving our planet, for ourselves and for future generations. Take a moment right now. Think about the future you want to leave behind, a future where the Amazon still stands tall, where rainforests are thriving, where the natural world continues to support life on Earth. Ask yourself, what role will I play in this fight? How will I contribute to saving the Amazon? Will I stand by and watch it disappear, or will I be part of the solution? The time to act is now. The future of the Amazon is in our hands, but the good news is, we have the power to change its fate. Together, we can create a future where this magnificent forest thrives for generations to come. The question is, will you take action? Join the global movement to protect the Amazon. Support sustainable practices, stand with indigenous communities, and demand that world leaders act now to protect our planet's most valuable resource. The Amazon is not just a forest, it is a symbol of hope for our planet's future. And it needs you. It needs all of us. Thank you for joining us in this critical conversation about the future of the Amazon. But this is just the beginning. Now that you know what's at stake, we ask you to take action. Share this video with your friends, speak up about the importance of protecting the Amazon, and get involved in local and global efforts to preserve our planet's most precious ecosystems. The fight for the Amazon is the fight for our future.